Good afternoon, everybody. This is Dave Jones with Storm Center Communications and GeoCollaborate. It is Thursday, October 17th, just about 2:30 East Coast time. This is a tropical update for the Sensitive Information Sharing Environment, the All Hazards Consortium, so we can share information freely between State Emergency Operations Center, private sector liaisons, and those private sector organizations and corporations that are well served by the communication that happens between the private sector liaisons and the private sector. So here we have the tropics. Remember, we've been talking about this system here, AL94. It is looking just the same as it did the last several days. This is good news because it doesn't look like there's much hope for it to develop, which is great news. We have a lot of wind shear in the atmosphere and some really unfriendly conditions that it's going to encounter as it gets over in this area. You can see the frontal system that's passed off the shore in Florida, giving a lot of folks in Florida some cool weather, very low dew points and cool weather. So we're not really that confident that this is going to develop in anything. The National Hurricane Center still is watching it, but really expects it to dissipate before it gets to Cuba. So in this area here, just looks like some of the wind shear is going to be too strong. So that's really great news. Those of you in Florida can breathe a sigh of relief that this one is not going to be any sort of East Coast storm over the next several days. We're also watching this area here. Let me drag the satellite image over here. This is the GOES East satellite image combined with GOES and polar orbiting satellite data sea surface temperature retrievals. That's why we can combine both of these channels to show you how warm the sea surface temperatures are. Here's this broad area of low pressure, and you can see it again, showers and some storms. These can be really tropical soakers. Don't get me wrong. This could be something that could really impact places like Belize and Central America, Costa Rica, and places like that. But we'll be watching it over the next couple of days. Really low confidence that this is going to develop into any sort of tropical system as well. So that's good news. If I take it up to the north just a little bit, look at the Gulf of Mexico. We see some greens in there and not as much reds. There was quite a bit of upwelling created by Hurricane Milton and also from Helene. It has cooled the waters somewhat, which is good news. But the big story with the Gulf of Mexico is high pressure. High pressure system is really taking over this area. You can see the flow coming from the northeast, and you can see it in those stratocumulus clouds. Look at that. Let's get a little bit closer here. And you can see that wind flowing off of the Florida peninsula, almost like a cold air outbreak in the wintertime. And those clouds are forming over the Gulf. Great news is closed for business for any sort of tropical activity, which is really awesome. Let me take this full screen and I'll show you what's going on in other parts of the nation here, at least as far as the tropics are concerned. This area here is going to be the saving grace for knocking down any sort of tropical activity, moving towards Hispaniola, moving towards Puerto Rico. There's a thunderstorm forming right now over western Puerto Rico. By the way, they're very hot down there. Heat advisories have been issued by the National Weather Service. And here's that AL94 moving towards the west. And that is looks like it's just going to clip some of the northern islands, maybe some of the U.S. Virgin Islands, British Virgin Islands here with some showers. But that is to be expected this time of year anyway. Let me show you what it looks like as far as ocean heat content, because we have had a lot of ocean heat content over the year, over this summer. And indeed, this is the latest graph shown from Brian McNulty down at University of Miami, Rosenstiel School of Marine and Atmospheric Sciences. This is for the Gulf of Mexico, and take a look at this. It's really quite interesting. It goes all the way back to 2013, where we had any numbers that you see or the bar graph below the bar. That means anomalously fewer or less heat, ocean heat content. But take it further to the right, all the way to the end there. Look at the ocean heat content in October of 2024. Really high really high. We've had a lot of deep warming waters in the Gulf of Mexico, and that's what's fueled so many storms. I mean, we watched Milton from beginning go from a tropical depression to a tropical storm to a Category 5 hurricane in about less than 24 hours, all because of that ocean heat content. Well, let me show you GeoCollaborate full screen here. I've zoomed in on AL94 just to show you what's going on. This is the predicted area of potential development for AL94. And this is the latest Hurricane Center outlook. But what I've displayed on here are some drifting buoys from Scripps Oceanographic Institute. These buoys are dropped in the ocean to give us more observations than what the operational buoys give us from the National Weather Service and NOAA. But we can interact with these as well and show you what's going on. So look at the sea surface temperature right here in this one. 86.2 degrees. That is some warm water. That is confirmed from the satellite data that we just showed you in the satellite image. But some of these buoys, 86.68 degrees. You can see the surface pressure here. But even as we go further along to the east, this one doesn't look like it's functioning quite accurately right now. Has a pressure of 860 millibars. Nope, that is not accurate. But these are all drifting around with the currents, and it sends back these real-time measurements, 86.6 degrees in the Caribbean Sea. So it's quite warm out there, and we can go over towards this area of potential development. Again, let me just go back to this one. It looks like only about a 20% chance of development over the next 2 days and a 30% chance of development over the next 7 days. But in the discussion, the Hurricane Center mentions that due to increasing wind shear, it looks like we will have less of a chance of this developing, and it may just fall apart in this area, which is great. We don't want any tropical development impacting Florida. We've had enough for the next decade, that's for sure. But what I want to show you, if you remember, well, we talked about this one here. This one only has a 30% chance of development over the next 2 days and a 30% over the next 7 days. But we'll be watching it. Could cause quite a bit of rain in Belize and Guatemala, down to the south in Honduras as well, because of these tropical low pressure systems coming off of that gyre. But in the Gulf of Mexico, look at all these wave drifter buoys. These were dropped from the NOAA P-3 aircraft and the Air Force Hurricane Hunters and off of ships as well. But look at them all here. Remember, they were lined up when Milton was coming ashore, heading towards the Tampa area in Sarasota. These were measuring some really serious wave heights. Currently, the wave heights aren't being transmitted back because these were dropped specifically for the storm. So just to save some bandwidth and sending this data back, that those waves have been turned off, but the barometric pressure and the sea surface temperatures are still on. 81 degrees there in the Gulf of Mexico, even up towards the north, 84.9 degrees. So we still have a lot of warm surface temperatures right along the shoreline. It's a little bit cooler, which is great. 82.3 degrees here towards southwest Florida. But these buoys are drifting around in the currents and giving us great measurements, really helping us too to transition research into operations. How effective are these buoys? Are they accurate? And can this data be put into numerical prediction models, which yes, they can and have been to help forecast intensity of hurricanes. And we also talk a lot about impacts too. When it was showing these 30-foot waves off the coast, boy, we knew that the west coast of Florida was really in for some big waves and a lot of damage. So that's really, really unfortunate. What I want to show you also here is the wind patterns. And this is really what's going to knock down this area. You can see right here, this is AL94 right here, and you can see it. But as it drifts to the west. I can put this sort of into forecast mode and take this further out into the future. And this is looking like about Friday. So this is tomorrow afternoon. And then we get into Saturday. And you can see this is the remnants of AL94. But look at those strong winds coming across. This is wind shear, and this is going to really knock that down. So the winds are going to continue from the northeast, hitting the Florida coast. We do have rip current advisories. We have high surf advisories all along the Florida coast. So plus, we have king tides. King tides are coming over the next 12 to 24 hours, and it's going to be causing perhaps some of the highest king tides down in the Miami area as well. Meanwhile, we do have a low pressure system developing, and what I'd like to do is I'll show you, let me switch over here to GeoCollaborate here for a second, because I did want to point out those advisories. Here are the advisories along the east coast of the U.S. and Florida. Not just small craft advisories, but rip current advisories and coastal flood advisories as well, all along the Florida East Coast because of that persistent northeasterly wind. And I just want to show you the forecast model here just a little bit. Remember, we talked about that big high pressure that was taking over on the East Coast. Boy, that's giving probably 7 days straight of perfectly clear skies. You can get out there and see the comet just after sunset as well. But let me put this into motion here for the forecast. And we have this coastal storm. It's far enough off the coast. It's not really giving a lot of rain or storminess to the East Coast, but it is kicking up waves. And that is also creating the rip current advisory. But if we put this into motion, you can see the high pressure building in, and look over the Gulf of Mexico, and look what it does to this low pressure system right here. It just squeezes it out and says, sorry, buddy, you're not going to the north. We're going to be blocking you. We've been watching a lot of football lately, and we know what a good defense does. And it really just peters that low pressure system out. But look how much it dominates. This is forecast hour Saturday, the upcoming weekend, Saturday night. Still strong high pressure system in here, and it's going to continue to dominate the weather around the East Coast and the Gulf of Mexico. So again, the Gulf of Mexico closed for business even out into the beginning of next week. Early next week, we're going to see that high pressure still sticking around, which is going to give plenty of dry weather. And that's great for the Helene recovery efforts in the mountains of North Carolina. Could lead to some cool temperatures, but also very seasonable weather as well. And looks like down in Florida, those winds are going to continue for the next 4 to 5 days from the northeast, causing a lot of beach erosion, strong waves, and rip currents. So it's not a great time to head to the beaches in Florida right now. And on the West Coast, a lot of cleanup is still going on. So I did just want to show you the power outage numbers because they continue to go down in Florida, which is excellent. As of this afternoon, 12:35 this afternoon, we're down to 28,023 meters or customers that were out of power. That is a restoration of 3,346,486 meters or customers in Florida since the landfall of Hurricane Milton. So those crews have been doing a terrific job. One of the largest mutual assistance mobilizations of the electric sector in U.S. history to deal with Hurricane Helene going all the way up the East Coast, impacting Southwest Virginia, Southern West Virginia, Western North Carolina, of course, where roads are still closed and will be in some areas for months and months as they have to repair those. Also down through Georgia and Western South Carolina into Florida. So a lot of power has been restored over the last 2.5 weeks or so, which is terrific. And I did just want to give a little plug out for a book. I'm a co-author on a book called Megalodons, Mermaids, and Climate Change answers to your ocean and atmosphere questions. So we'll be answering some questions here on the channel as you submit them. But we have a book that's getting released, and here it is, released next week on the 22nd. If you feel so inclined and you want to dive more into ocean science, Dr. Ellen Prager is not only a marine scientist, but she's an aquanaut. She's lived underwater for weeks at a time, training astronauts in the weightlessness of the ocean, which simulates space, and has also had quite a few amazing jobs. But we teamed up, and we're answering questions about the ocean and the atmosphere. And if you use that code right at the bottom there, MMCC, I'll put this link in the chat, but this short URL takes you to Columbia University Press's website. And if you use this code, you get a 20% discount. So if you feel so inclined, be a great gift for perhaps Christmas or Thanksgiving when you have those interesting family get-togethers. So that's it for this tropical update. I'm Dave Jones with Storm Center Communications and GeoCollaborate. Thanks so much for watching. We will do another update during the day tomorrow because we still have that slight chance of tropical development, and we will be watching it, obviously, very closely. One thing up to the northeast, you can see that storm we were talking about on the models and showing you. Well, here it is. You can see it in satellite imagery. The clouds are just not quite reaching the coastline, but boy, it's kind of rocking and rolling out there. It's not a hurricane. It's a mid-latitude cyclone, a synoptic scale system, which means that you can see the circulation. You can see the frontal system. It's drawing a lot of cold air down behind it, so you see these stratocumulus clouds coming over, almost like a winter storm, bringing cold air in, but no snow associated with this one. But it is starting to give up in the northeast, Cape Cod and Rhode Island, eastern Connecticut, some high clouds. But all the storminess from this is going to remain out to sea and will only impact the waves. A lot of big waves, so don't go out in the ocean. It's probably too cold anyway. Next tropical update will be tomorrow. Thanks so much for watching. Please take care of yourself and watch out for your neighbors.